Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone. Today we are studying from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, shloka number 18. The title of the chapter is The Divine and Demoniac Natures. Text 18. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodam cha samshrita mam atma paradeheshu pradvisanto abhayakshu kaha. Word to word meaning. Ahankaram, false ego. Balam, strength. Darpam, pride. Kamam, lust. Krodam, anger. Cha, also. Samshritaha, having taken shelter of. Mam, me. Atma, in their own. Para, and in other. Deheshu, bodies. Pradvisantaha, blaspheming. Abhayakshukaha, envious. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Purport. A demonic person, being always against God's supremacy, does not like to believe in the scriptures. He is envious of both the scriptures and the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is because, by his so-called prestige and his accumulation of wealth and strength, he does not know what the present life is a preparation for the next life. Not knowing this, he is actually envious of his own self as well as of others. He commits violence on other bodies and on his own. He does not care for the supreme control of the personality of Godhead because he has no knowledge. Being envious of the scriptures and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he puts forward false arguments against the existence of God and denies the scriptural authority. He thinks himself independent and powerful in every action. He thinks that since no one can equal him in strength, power, or wealth, he can act in any way and no one can stop him. If he has an enemy who might check the advancement of his sensual activities, he makes plans to cut down by his own power. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone for the studying of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today we are dealing with a subject that we think, at least I think I am out of it, but there are many qualities that still are present in me. So I seek for your blessings so that I can speak for my own purification and as well as a service to the Vaishnavas and Srila Prabhupada and to my spiritual master. Now, we know that this chapter is divided in 3 different sections. In the earlier class, I mentioned how these verses are divided. So I want to revise those ones. So verses 1 to 9 talks about divine and demoniac qualities. It's okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So this chapter is divided in 3 sections. So the verses 1 to 9 talks about divine and demoniac qualities. And section 2, which includes from 10 to 18, this is the last verse of this section, focuses upon the demoniac nature. And the next section, starting from 19 to 24, it talks about the results of the demoniac activities, and there is a choice given to us, whether we want to elevate or we want to degrade. And based on our choice, we will be choosing which nature we will be having. Now, in this particular section, there are 9 verses. So I'll just go briefly with each verse, and then we come to the 18th one, because 18th is also the summary of these last 8 verses. That's why I wanted to go through these 8 verses ahead. Verse 10, Krishna explains the demonic tendencies and their conduct. So where is the shelter of a person who has displaying these demonic qualities? He has insatiable thirst for enjoyment, and he is absorbed in his pride and false prestige. He is illusioned and attracted by impermanent things of this world, and he has very unclean vows. And 11, Krishna talks about the attitude of the demonic mentality, that their ultimate goal is only to gratify senses, for which they are ready to take in unlimited anxieties of life. And then 12, to achieve the goal, what kind of engagements they're bounded? They are bounded by thousands of desires, which basically it is absorbed in lust and anger. And to somehow the other, to fulfill this lust and this anger, they want to secure money and power by any illegal means of sense gratification. And text 13 to 15, it talks about their internal thoughts. Their internal thoughts is only about gaining wealth. How much I gain today and how much I want to gain tomorrow. And that means it's unlimited plan making. And for that sake, they are happy even to kill an enemy, because they want to establish themselves that they are the enjoyer and the Lord, and they want to show that they're perfect, powerful, and happy. And they are the richest. And for that sake, they will even use any kind of sacrifices, Vedic sacrifices also, and they give charity just for their own glorification, not for the real purpose of life, and they're deluded by ignorance. And 16, Krishna talks about what happens when people are engaged in these kind of activities. Where is their destination to be? It is only hell. And 17, it talks about hypocritical nature of them. How are they defined? What are their inner nature is? They are always self-complacent and impudent, because they have so much wealth and false prestige. And they perform any kind of sacrifices for namesake only, and they do not follow any scriptures, rules and regulations. Now 18 is an condensed version of all these 8 verses, because they are bewildered by the false ego, strength, pride, lust and anger. And because of this, they show this tendency of enviousness of the Supreme Lord, present in them as a super soul and present in other living entities. And they blaspheme against the real religion. So we see here, Prabhupada often quotes, divine means it is to the Sura. It is referred to the Sura. People who follow the divine, who has the divine qualities, who exhibit divine qualities, they are called Suras. Sura means who is a devotee of the Lord. And those who show demoniac natures and exhibit demoniac qualities, they are usually referred as asuras. But before coming to Krishna consciousness, I always used to think demon means they used to have two horns, they look very ugly, black, and with the horrible teeth. This is my understanding of a demon. But Prabhupada makes it very clear, it is by the qualities we actually define people. It's not by their external appearances. And so our nature actually fosters our consciousness. So Krishna is telling, where are you at? What kind of qualities are you exhibiting? Although he doesn't need to describe what are the demons, but might be we don't know. Like I was thinking of this example. In Satyuga, the demons used to be in another planet and the devotees used to be on the earth. And in Treta Yuga, they used to be in different continents. Ravana on one side and Ram on one side. Of course, he is Lord, but again, there are devotees. Lord and the devotees are on one continent and the demons are on the other continent. In Dwapar Yuga, it's in the same city and the place. But in Kali Yuga, they both are in us. That we have demonic qualities, we have divine qualities. And so Krishna is notifying what are the consequences if you carry out these kind of natures. So what is the main pulling back force for these demons? First, they're bewildered by false ego. This is the why is a living entity in the material world? Because they are deluded by the false ego. They want to exhibit that they are the enjoyer and they are the Lord. So they come to this material world. And then, based on their false ego, they try to attempt to grow and acquire power. By acquiring power, you develop strength in the society. And because you are very powerful, you need to show out your pride that I am this powerful. And that's not there it ends. Then it leads to the lust. And when lust is not satisfied, it rages into anger. So the root cause of all these bad qualities is enviousness of the Supreme Lord. The material world, the living entities are in the material world because they're envious of the Lord. And then, what do? They are envious of the Supreme Lord who is situated as a supersoul in their bodies as well as in the bodies of others. They do not spare others even at the slightest chastisement. Who is an example from the Shastra? Hiranyakashipu. He couldn't even tolerate Prahlad was speaking glories of the Supreme Lord. He even puts Prahlad into such terrible punishments. And to that extent that it is life-threatening for Prahlad. And not only that, they blaspheme the real religion. So Prabhupada says this is actually the soul-killing civilization. Because they cannot appreciate who they are and what is their relationship with the Lord. And Prabhupada terms this as soul-killing civilization because this is not defined to one person. It's not an individual thing. It is actually placed in the society itself that everyone is affected by this. And Krishna talks in 11, 20, 17 of the Bhagavatam. 1 second. Where are you? Sorry, 1 second. I think I missed it. Let me write it off. Sorry, just 1 second. 11, 20, 17. So in this shloka, again, Krishna explains what is the importance of the human body. The human body, which can award all the benefit of life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature. With the progression of the evolution, the jiva gets this human form of life. So this is very rare achievement, and it is compared to like a boat, like the perfectly constructed boat. And the spiritual master becomes the captain, and the instructions of the Supreme Lord becomes the favorable winds to cross this ocean of material existence. But if someone doesn't take advantage of this human form of life to cross this material existence, they're considered as a killer of their own self, own soul, atmanaha. That means, although you cannot kill the soul, but you are putting off all the possible chances for you to realize the mission of your existence. So here Prabhupada mentions that the first and foremost characteristic of a demonic person is that he is against the God's supremacy and does not like to believe in the scriptures. But what are scriptures? The scriptures are the causeless mercy of the Krishna, and these are given to us so that we are helped to overcome these demonic tendencies in our life. Right? In Ishopanishad, Mantra 3, also the killer of the soul, whosoever may be, must enter the planets of the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. So if someone doesn't utilize the human form of life, then they are thrown into the darkest regions of the world, which are full of darkness and ignorance. See, in the middle planetary system, especially on the earth, this is the karma bhumi, whereby your activities, either you can elevate yourself or degrade yourself. But how do we get the guidance to elevate or degrade? When we refer to scriptures, when we take the shelter of the Guru, they will guide us how we can elevate. And if we defy the authority of the scriptures, we are no less than the animals. Animals are eating, we are eating. Animals are sleeping, we are sleeping. Animals are having families, we also have families. Animals are defending, we are also defending. There is no difference. Animals are acting on instincts, but we have intelligence, so we are making everything very sophisticated. For eating, we create restaurants, we create nice facilities. And for sleeping, we have nice apartments, luxurious hotels. And for having families, we do a very, with a prompt that we engage in the sense gratification. And defense. You see, America now has acquired around 6,800 nuclear weapons. And Russia is standing ahead with 7,000 weapons. But what is the use? It couldn't even curb the disease of the COVID. We were all locked down. So even though there is advancement, but that advancement has nothing to do before the force of the laws of nature. The laws of nature is heavy on us, but we don't understand. But on the other hand, we think that we are very advanced. And we will see some ill effects of our advancement. Animals, they can sleep nicely, but people today, they have insomnia. If they can't take sleeping pills, they can't sleep. Animals, they never have eating disorders. But we have eating disorders. Either we become obese or we have malnutrition, right? And animals, they don't commit suicide when their loved ones leave. But human beings get depressed in spite of having advancement. We need to have nuclear weapons to show to other people that we are strong enough. But animals, they have this nature. So if someone doesn't appreciate the human form of life, Krishna very mercifully allows their desires and puts them into the lower forms of life. This is the mercy of Krishna, because having human form of life, what are you doing to yourself? You're just becoming proud of yourself. You're being bewildered by your false ego. And On top of it, you're blaspheming the Lord. You're blaspheming the real religion. Whether you take Judaism, whether you take Christianity, whether you take Islam, even in those religions also, the highest sin is considered to blaspheme the Lord and to blaspheme the scriptures. They don't actually describe the Sanatan Dharma, but still, in those religions also, blaspheming the Lord is considered the highest sin. Why? Because He is our true well-wisher. It's very interesting. He says, Krishna says, He is situated in their own bodies. He is situated even in the envious people as a super soul. He is witnessing as a neutral. He is witnessing their good and bad deeds. He is not leaving them even though they are envious of Him. He is not leaving them because He has that affection for the living entity. But what does the living entity coming under the false ego? They are becoming averse to the Lord. Now question comes to us. Can we be reversing this situation? Reversing can happen only when we take shelter of the Bhakti Yoga. No other way. For an example, we see from the Shastras itself, the example of Vritrasura. Although he looks demoniac, right? But he's a devotee by heart. He got cursed and then he left for the Vaikuntha. But externally he was demoniac, but internally he wasn't. But his root was in the shelter of the bhakti. That was, he was purified. But you see the example of Hiranyakashipu or Ravanasura. Externally they're very well educated, they're very situated in terms of wealth, power, even in sense gratification. But what are they? They're always deluded by bad qualities. So Prabhupada also talks about this soul-killing civilization. This soul-killing civilization is around us, and we are also coming from it. So how is this soul-killing civilization bad? First, if we understand this, then we can understand if we can reverse it or not. How we were just discussing, there is a difference between animals and human beings, but more or less, every one of us, we are engaged in the animal propensities. Then Prabhupada writes, there are swines, dogs, camels, asses, etc., whose economic necessities are just important to them as ours to us. But the economic problems of these animals are solved only by nasty, unpleasant conditions. But the human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature, because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal life. Why it is better? Why? Because they can inquire about who they are, their purpose of life. Whereas animals cannot inquire for the higher purpose. And Prabhupada gives an analogy. If someone is highly placed government servant, he is given a better facility, obviously, than the ordinary clerk. Why? Because he has higher responsibilities to perform. An ordinary clerk is not given better facilities because his job is not so high. Similarly, the living entities which are casted in different bodies, the lower species of life, they don't have higher facilities to inquire about what is the purpose of life. But the human being has that facility to inquire. But what is the problem with today's civilization? They are only focused upon the hungry stomach. They are not focused upon the soul, the needs of the soul, right? So Prabhupada is saying, So the laws of nature will not allow you to will not allow you to achieve. So what does it do? It pushes more the people into more workforce, more stress, more anxiety. And then people are ended up with so much distress. Actually, this is a thankless task of the Maya Devi. Why? At least by constant punishments, at least by constant anxieties, you will at a point stop and think, why am I suffering? What is the purpose of my life? But if we see around, the whole society is arranged in such a way that we are only educated and trained how to earn bread and butter. Nothing more. How do you have to maintain your body? How do you need to gratify your senses? But no education about the soul. That means the needs of the soul have been covered. But if someone takes up to bhakti, what happens to them? Even if they fail, as how Bhagavad Gita Krishna says in 6.41 to 43, even someone fails on the path of self-realization, they will still have a higher birth. Either they will go to heavenly planets to enjoy for a long time, or they get birth in an aristocratic family, where they get a chance to inquire about the human form of life. It's just like teacher is encouraging a student to give an exam. And the teacher says, you just give exam, that's enough. You just prepare and you give for exam. Even if you fail, I will give you some reward for it. Are you ready for such an exam? But the material nature is pushing us to the other way. It says, you give this exam, you fail. You won't be promoted. But bhakti is not like that. You're promoted either into the Vaishnava families or either into the heavenly planets, and you enjoy there, you fulfill. And then you see, you can inquire there. So this is the beauty of the bhakti lifestyle. Then Prabhupada is constantly hammering on this point that we should be studying the books, the importance of the scriptures. Because if we don't understand from the scriptures, we will never get to know. An example, today we are discussing these points. Where are we discussing it from? From the Shastra. Because Shastra is clearly telling you the difference between divine qualities and demoniac qualities. What happens when you follow certain qualities and what happens when you don't follow these qualities. So it's a manual, it's a guide that is leading us on our paths. So importance of Shastra is an important foundational principle in the bhakti lifestyle. Otherwise, we would be just Naradamas. Naradama means the lowest of the mankind, because they cannot inquire about the human form of life. So Albert Einstein once said, problems which are created by one kind of consciousness cannot solve the problems on the same set. We have to elevate the consciousness to solve those problems. So we see in the Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva is glorifying the bhakti process. Anartho pasnam sakshat bhakti yogam adokshache lokas sanjanato vidvams chakre satvatam samhitam. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of the people do not know this. Therefore, the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. So the mass of the people in the society, they don't know how to mitigate the problems of life. They're always looking for solutions on their own understanding, on their level of consciousness. But these material problems are superfluous. That means they cannot touch us. Because by nature we are spirit soul. The material problems does not touch us. But we don't know how to mitigate them because we are constantly covered, and the layer of this covering is very thick. So what did Vyasadeva, out of his compassion and his realization, mature realization, what did he do? He actually compiled the Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. So this is where the Shastra comes again. Shastra is the foundation which tells us who we are, who is Supreme Lord, and what is our relationship. And then here Prabhupada writes in this purport, Vyasadeva saw the remedial measure for the conditioned souls, namely the process of devotional service. It is a great transcendental science and begins with process of hearing and chanting the name, fame, glory, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because why? Because it revives the dormant affection of love of God. And it does not depend upon a mechanical system of hearing and chanting, but solely and wholly depends upon the causeless mercy of the Lord. We compare this to here. What is the problem of the demoniac person? He's envious. But as soon as you approach the Shastra, as soon as you approach the Bhakti Yoga, as soon as you approach the Guru, they all are directing to the process where it can revive that dormant affection that we have. So this envy is an external covering onto the soul, the conditioned soul. It is not the intrinsic nature of the soul. It is just a covering. But this covering can be removed only when someone has knowledge, only when someone is engaged in the bhakti. And we also see the Shastric importance in the Varnashram system. In the Varnashram system also, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they are called Dvijas. They actually go to the Gurukul, they learn the Shastra and they impart knowledge to themselves and to their dependents. And then of course the Sudras, they don't go to the Vedic schools, but they do have a master. They are engaged in the service of a good master. So they are also benefited. Then this is the Varnas. Then we take the Ashramas. In the Ashramas, it is the Brahmacharis and Sannyasis. The prime role of their foundation is to be educated, Swadhyaya. They study the Vedic Shastras. And the Sannyasis and Brahmacharis, they are engaged in the preaching mission. And they go and preach the householders. And because of their preaching, the householders at the age of 50, they take up to the Vanaprastha. So how important is the Shastra in our lives? So the urge of the soul is totally different what we see the urge of the body, which is prominent in the today's society. And Prabhupada writes, the soul can be solaced only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his bona fide devotees. The soul can be solaced. That means it will have its own comfort zone when we take up to the process that is recommended by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, this is the consequence, that we will be bewildered by the false ego, we will be disturbed by the pride, lust and anger. And there is no other way to have solace. Now we will see a little bit more on the Shastra, because Prabhupada was emphasizing the importance of Shastra in this purport. The word Shastra is derived from the word dhatu, shas. Shas dhatu, that means it is controlling or ruling. There are two words in the scriptures. One is the Shastra, one is the Shastra. Shastra, it also rules us, controls us, and it cuts off our ignorance. Shastra, which is a weapon, it kills. It is ruling by the weapons. So when we have a government we need to have both, not just Shastra. It is also the Shastra. So our Vedic scriptures are not just ordinary law books of the human common sense, but these are the statements of factually liberated persons, unaffected by the imperfectness of the senses. We have 4 defects, right? Imperfect senses, we are easily illusionized, we are yes, also imperfect senses, illusionized, make mistakes, cheating propensities. So when we talk about the Shastra is coming from the persons who are liberated, who have perfected in their consciousness. They are not ruled by the material senses, material mind or intelligence. So Prabhupada says Shastra must be always correct. It's not like sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's incorrect. No. When Shastra is indicating something, it is always correct. In Vedic scriptures, then Prabhupada gives a famous example. Cow is considered to be mother. And she is the mother all the time. Not that when I like, she's mother. When I don't like, I kill her and eat as a beef. No. She's always the mother. But some rascals say that she's not the mother, especially in the Kali Yuga. That's why there's so much animal slaughter. And this is also the ill effects of this kind of slaughtering that is bringing so many adversities to our living. Why is COVID? Because there was so much animal slaughter. And COVID has totally shaken the whole world, isn't it? And we also see the example that in the ecological system of the species, you take any one species out of the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem gets disturbed. But if you take human beings out of the ecosystem, no one is getting affected. What is an example? Again, you take the COVID. 8 months we were in lockdown. Earth was breathing. Everything was reviving. There was no air pollution, there is no noise pollution, there is no water pollution. But we are again back into the picture, again pollution started. Because the pollution is not just in our actions, but it is coming from our consciousness. Our consciousness are polluted. We want to exploit. And this exploitation tendency is very prominent when we are deluded by the false ego. Then Prabhupada writes, if one acts according to the injunctions of Shastra, he will be freed from the reactions of sinful activity. Then Shastra says one should not be carried away by the propensities of defective conditioned life. One should be guided by the principles of the Shastra. So what is Shastra doing to us? Like if you take an example of a small child, they always want to play all day. But what does the Shastra say? The parents should take care of him and educate him so that he will be out of this flavorous acts. Similarly, the Shastra here is educating us that what qualities we are having when we engage in this material propensities and where we should be heading towards to. And also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies the Shastra, that intelligent people who follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions and instructions of Acharya, bona fide spiritual master, will act according to the Shastra. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the one who is coming in this age and is promoting the Bhagavat. Dharma. This is the dharma of the yuga where we have to engage in the Krishna conscious activities. And the Vedic literatures, they will guide us towards the highest goal of our life. If we don't have the Vedas, then what will happen to us? We will be deluded because we are on the mental speculation. Then, another example. When Krishna left this planet, all the sages of the Naimisharanya, they were asking Sutta Goswami, where is that we have to take shelter now? Krishna has already left to his planet. Then Sutta Goswami says, you have to take the shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Because all the principles, all the dharmic principles are now in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's non-different from Krishna. Krishna is speaking through the Shastra. And also we see the example of Arjuna. When Krishna departed, then Arjuna returns back and he takes shelter. He was questioned by Yudhishthir Maharaj. Like, why are you morose? I'm seeing so many bad omens. Is something wrong happened to Yadus? Is Krishna fine? Is everything good? Then he says, yes, the sun has set now. That means he winded up his pastimes and he left. But I have the treasure of his instructions in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. Now I will take the solace from going back into these instructions. So here again we see the example that regular hearing and recitation of the Shastra, whether it's in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavad Gita, is the only way for our self-realization. That's why Prabhupada also made a very important point that each one of us, we should be reading books very deeply, very thoroughly, because otherwise we don't have the knowledge. Because outside people are getting knowledge and people are dressed up in very nicely. They have nice suits and ties. But who is a demon, who is a devotee, we don't know. Because their consciousness is polluted. The whole society is engaged towards that soul killing. Although the soul cannot be killed, but the soul is engaged in the activities which are not necessary for the soul. But when we have the education from the Shastra, from the books which are given to us in our Guru Parampara, we have the knowledge how can we tune our lives. So when Krishna is talking about these qualities, he is also warning us that do not go back to these qualities. You have started where you came from, but do not go back to these qualities. Because this is not what you need to get back to. You have to revive your true identification, true nature. But does it mean that are we against the advancement of the human civilization? We are not against the advancement of the human civilization. We are not disapproving, but find the actual utilization of that advancement. Prabhupada used aeroplanes to travel all over the world to preach this message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. We have seen yesterday, we were celebrating how Srila Prabhupada arrival in the US. Prabhupada went in the steam engine. Prabhupada went there and he traveled in airplanes. Then Prabhupada used microphones. Prabhupada used typewriters. Prabhupada used all means of advancement. But that is to preach Krishna consciousness. That is to revive, save the people from this soul-killing civilization. And we also see the example of Prabhupada. Prabhupada is always writing books. Why is he investing so much in books? Prabhupada said, my books will live for 10,000 years. Because this is the manuals, this is the guidelines. This can show where we are at, what tendencies we are carrying out in this material world. Otherwise, we are envious of our own self as well as to others. We cannot respect even others. But when we have this Shastra, then we started to understand, okay, these are the demoniac qualities. Now, how should I help myself? to engage more in Krishna conscious activities. How to help others? By compassion, by doing prasadam distribution, by helping, by doing book distribution, by engaging people in different devotional activities. We have to curb these demonic tendencies only with the help of the gifts that we have got from the Guru Parampara. I end here and conclude that today we have seen in this particular verse how a demonic person is bewildered by false ego, pride, lust and strength and anger. And he's also envious of the Supreme Lord, and he's blaspheming against the real religion, which is considered to be the highest sin. We will see the result of that sin in tomorrow, that Krishna mercifully casts them into the lower natures so that they don't make any further sin but actually can have a rectification. And then Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport saying that the importance of studying Shastra. If someone doesn't study the Shastra, they become demoniac. This will happen even to the practicing devotees. If we are not in touch with the study of the Shastra and we are not taking guidance of the Guru and the Sadhus, we will also regain back these demonic qualities because we are still in the material atmosphere. You can take an example of, say for example, you are in enemy's army camp. You may be thinking that now the enemy is not attacking me, I am safe. No, you're not safe. For a moment you are thinking that you are safe, but you are in the enemy camp. At any point they can spot you out and shoot out, right? So we are in the material nature. We can't take lightly just because we are practicing devotees. The practicing devotees means we have to take this application of this knowledge into our life, and then we fight back. And then we go back home, back to Godhead. That is where the safest place. So I end here. If there are any questions or corrections or comments, please. And forgive me for my shortcomings and impudence. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
We were speaking about Shastra and Shastras. So, both we have to have.
Yes.
Shastra means killing. Shastra means getting the knowledge. So, how this Shastra is used in knowledge?
We also have a Shastra, Prabhu, Harinam Sankirtan. Because it can penetrate even into the deepest of our hearts, where normal Shastra cannot do. Normal Shastra cannot do. Because the soul cannot be even touched by any kind of weapon that we read in Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter. It cannot be touched by fire, it cannot be touched by water. But the Harinam touches the soul, right? We come to the Kirtan, we become very happy. This is our Shastra. This is brought by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara. So we do have Shastra. We just need to do Harinam Sankirtan with more faith.
This Shastra we can understand, but the Shastra which are using the battle, just now you were giving the example where the battle, but if you are an enemy, they can shoot out any time.
Yes.
So, this Shastra and that Shastra, the difference is there.
Yes.
So,
But in Kali Yuga, the Shastra recommended is only Harinam Sankirtan. We see that in the example of Nityananda Prabhu also. When Nityananda Prabhu was hurt by Jagai and Madai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes his Sudarshan Chakra, wanted to kill. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said no. Nityananda Prabhu said no. You're the most merciful Lord. So Nityananda Prabhu is showing that you cannot kill the demons just by Shastra, not the weapons. you use the weapon of the Sankirtan. So, yeah, I mean, please give us the blessing that we can chant with faith, and more absorption.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for giving focus reading Shastra. Already in the class you said that we are not against the advancement. And we use everything.
Yes.
But Prabhupada used to say, I never heard like this. If Prabhupada said it is a bad bargain, something best use of bad bargain.
Best use of bad bargain, yes.
So advancement is that we cannot stop. And this advancement is in a Prabhupada said it is like a mode of ignorance and passion. That's all.
Yes.
Actually, we are against this advancement, but we can't stop that. We are not like so much powerful there. So we are using it.
Yes.
That's why we are Prabhupada says that we have to establish this Varnashram system, farm communities, where we can show the whole world. There is no need of this type of advancement. This will just waste our time.
But,
So we will use only this.
yes.
But actually we are against all this advancement. There is no need of this big factories or aeroplanes or this and that, mobiles.
Yes.
But because it is that, we have to.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's a very good point. Yes, we are not encouraging people to go in this mode of passion or ignorance, right? But whatever is available, we are utilizing it for our Krishna consciousness. Yes, thank you for the correction. Yes, thank you. Anything else? Thank you so much.